Alright, so the purpose of this video is to kind of acclimate you to using G polygons and really trying to graph things out a little bit. So first I'm going to explain the picture that we're going to do, and then we'll get into the coding part.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so if we take a look at this graph here, you'll see that I have a window in the fourth quadrant, I believe. X of 0, Y of 0 at this top left corner. On the top right corner, we have X of 200 because we've moved 200 pixels over to the right, and Y of 0 because we haven't moved anywhere up or down. And then if you look at the bottom left corner, we have X of 0 because we haven't moved right or left, and Y of 200 because we've moved down 200 pixels. And then at the bottom right corner, we have a 200X and a 200Y. So what I want to do is I want to create a G polygon, a diamond shape as you see in the middle, which is halfway encircled by another G polygon, which kind of looks like a backwards C. So what I've done is I've created a graph that each square represents a 10 by 10 pixel area. So for example, if I took this and I went here, it would be X of 0 because I haven't moved left or right, but I have moved down 10 pixels. Now I have X10, Y10, X20, Y10, X30, Y10, so forth and so on. So that this point now represents 100X and 70Y. So that's 10 squares from the left here and 7 squares down from the top. So I want to recreate this shape, and I'm going to do so. First, I'm going to label all these points. So I'd want this point, 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 and of course I'd want these points as well. So I'm going to do that on a piece of paper as this, and then I'm going to go ahead and add that to my program. Okay, now you can see I've labeled all of my points so I have the coordinates that I can place into my G polygon program, and I should be able to recreate this shape. We're going to now move to the computer and program this since we've already done the work of planning ahead of time.
Alright, so now I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call this, I guess, C star, because it's kind of a backwards C and a star. What I'm going to want to do is add my imports. And now that I have my import statements up there, I'm also going to want to extend the graphics program class. And so this is a graphics program, but it's just an extension thereof. We'll go ahead and we'll put some comments here real quick so we know where these braces go. And then we will create the run method with no return. Again, we'll just comment these real quick so we know where these go to. Shouldn't have any more braces after this. So in order to create a G polygon, which is what we're going to do because we need to create that diamond and that C shape, it's kind of an awkward shape. Now, I could do the backwards C. I could do that with some rectangles, I suppose. But again, the purpose of this is really to show the flexibility of the G polygon. So we're going to focus more on that. So knowing that we want to learn a little bit about G polygons, I'm going to go ahead to the Turtle Tome on MrBuka.net, and I'm going to go take a look at the ACM API. Specifically, I want to learn a little bit about G polygons. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down here to the G polygon class. I'll click on that, and I'll take a look. Now, I know that I'm going to want to create a new polygon and define it. So there's three ways I can construct it. One is just an empty polygon, one's an empty polygon at a particular XY location, which is the one I'm going to use. And the other one, I could construct a whole new polygon with a bunch of array points if I wanted to. Now, as convenient as this is, it might be a little bit more complex or confusing, so I'm going to try to make it as concrete and step-by-step as possible. So I'll end up using this constructor here. So when I get there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to declare a G polygon. I'm going to call it diamond because that's where I'm going to start off, I guess. And I'm going to assign it a new G polygon. And if we recall from the picture that we drew, the first point, at least the top point, will be at 100x and 90y. And then all I really need to do is take a look at this. Now, what I'm going to end up using is I'm going to end up using add vertex because it starts with adding a vertex at a particular location, x and y. And then I'll add edges, which will allow me to add edges to that shape, again, at x and y locations. So I'm going to kind of go all the way around this. So the vertex, which will be the topmost points, I will say diamond dot add vertex. And then I'm not going to change the location. Now, the reason why I'm saying 0, 0 here is because I've already declared where it starts at, and that's the topmost point. So I'm just going to say, okay, let's add the vertex for the diamond, but let's just leave it where we started. So now all I have to do is do a little bit of math for the edge. So diamond dot set edge, or I'm sorry, add edge. And then I'm going to have to do a little bit of math, which is what's my next point. Now I'm going to go clockwise around this shape. And since I wrote down my shapes, I know that this particular shape is going to require that, well, the next point here is going to require a change in x of 10 and a change in y, because it's going down, of 10 as well. So adding edges from the vertex is a matter of how much further are we shifting those pixels. So then the bottom part of that diamond that I wanted is a diamond dot add edge, and that is a change of x going to the left, so that'll be a negative 10, but it's also a change in y going down a little bit more, 10 more pixels, so now we've got 10. And then that third point, or I guess the fourth point, is a change in x of negative 10, because again we're going to the left, but it's also a change of y, because we're going up a little bit, of negative 10. Now I'm going to say that diamond, the G polygon, we're going to set filled to true, because we do want to color it in. And then we're going to say that diamond set fill color. And I'm just going to take a shortcut here, and I'm not going to have a very custom designed color. I'm just going to say red. And then just to check it out on the screen, I'm going to say add diamond. So now I should be able to see what my progress is, and if I have any errors, I can kind of at least visually see what's going on at this point. Well, I don't have any errors, and it's perfectly centered in that window, just like I was hoping for, so that's good. And again, really, I got to credit that to putting it on graph paper first, really knowing what those points are, understanding how they relate to each other, and then moving on. So now, with that being successful, I'm going to create another G polygon, and I'm going to kind of copy and paste because I don't really like typing that much. So diamond, I'm going to call it C, because it's kind of a backward C. And then I'm going to create its location at the 170 mark, which was the first mark that you might have seen on the paper when I declared that. And then I'm going to go ahead and give C its vertex, so its topmost points, which I'm not going to change that. I'm going to leave it at 170. So there's no change in X and no change in Y, because that's what that represents. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start adding edges. So add edge. And again, it's about the change in X and Y. It's not about where it's located. So that's pretty important to know. So I know my next point is at 130.70 if you refer back to that picture. So that's a change in X of 30, but there's absolutely no change in Y because it's on the same plane there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the edge. And this is the one coming down to the bottom right corner of the backward C shape. And I know the location is 130, 130. So X being at 130 already does not change, but Y in this case does change. It changes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 altogether. So that would be 60 change in Y. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another edge. And this will be the bottom left corner of this, which is represented by 100X and 130Y. So there is going to be a change in X of negative 30. And you notice it's kind of like mirroring this, I guess. And because it's on the same level, we're not changing Y at all. We'll leave that at a change of 0 of y. And then we're going to go up just a little bit. And x is not going to change at all because it's at the same position left and right. But y we are going to negative 10 because we're going up just 10 pixels. And then with this, we'll go ahead and we'll add the edge. This time we will change x of 20 because we're moving to the right, so that's a positive number. But y will not change, so we'll leave that at 0. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to move our way back up to the inner right corner of the backwards C, which is at 120/80. So that means we're going to have a change in x of 0 because we're just going straight up. And a change of y will be 10, 20, 30, 40, a negative 40 because we're moving up. And then C dot add edge. Again, I'm moving backwards x. So I'm going to say negative, and that should be 20. And then y does not change because we're remaining at the same. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to run it. There might be an error here, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and copy these right here because I have to sort of mimic the same thing for C. So just make sure we change that to C, set true. C, set fill color, and just to have some contrast, I'm going to call this blue, and then I'm going to make sure that I add C to the screen. Now let's see what we come up with here. All right, so it's perfectly how I want it. There are no errors. It's exactly how I did it. And again, you got to contribute most of that to just putting it down on paper first. I could have tried to fudge with these and program something and run it and program. But by the time I would have done that, I could have drawn 50 of these different shapes and probably programmed them much more easily. So plan ahead, understand how vertex works, which is based off of your G polygons origin. So as long as we leave that 0, 0, it'll be at the same location that we anticipated. There is one more thing I'd like to show you regarding diamond. Well, heck, either one of these, because they're both G polygons, you can actually rotate these a little bit. So let me just kind of do that for diamond. I'm going to say, hey, diamond dot rotate. And we'll just do it a minor change of 10 degrees. Now let's see that if there's any difference here. And you will see it's slightly skewed. It was kind of straight up and down diamond. Now it's slightly skewed a little bit. And just to kind of emphasize that, let's say I wanted to make it, I don't know, 50 degrees. That should be a little bit more noticeable. And there we go. It's almost squarish. Yeah, it kind of pixelates a little bit, but I'm not that worried about that. I'm going to go ahead and take that, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do that for C instead, just to show you that and what that would look like. So if we rotated C at 50, we're not rotating diamond anymore. You see, it kind of rotates that. So it does it off the vertex. Think of the vertex, the starting point, as where you kind of put a pin in it. And if you want to rotate it, well, it's going to rotate off of that one pin. So that's something to sort of keep in mind. As you can kind of see, it continues to rotate again off this pin, which is the point of origin. And if I go ahead and I just get rid of this, comment this out, and I run it again, you'll see that we're back at the point of origin, and it's back how we originally designed it. Again, the pin being right there at that point. Well, hopefully you have a little bit better understanding of G polygons, how they work, and you can be a little bit more successful.